Hello online crew, how are we? I hope you've had or are having a wonderful Easter for those of you that celebrate Easter. I hope you've had a wonderful relaxing time with your family and friends. So today's topic for my Facebook Live is for those of you that are feeling maybe stuck in some way, overwhelmed in some way, anxious about some things in some way. Hello Crystal, how are you? Lovely to see you on live and good to see I've got comments today. Thank you for saying hello to Henry. Hey Edith, how are you? Hello Rob, how you going? Lovely to see you all jumping on. Hello Olive, happy Easter to those of you that are celebrating. Hello Shannon, great to see you on Shannon. So lovely. How are you, Sean? Hello, Julie. Great to see you all jumping on the live here. So today's topic, hi Sally, is for those of you that are, feeling a little bit stuck or overwhelmed or anxious about something to the point where it's holding you back. So is it holding you back from something in your life or achieving what you want in your business? That's what I want to address here on today's live. And the reason for that is, if you're not aware, my name is Helen Martin, if we've not met before, and I am your online crew captain, and we have the most awesome online crew community here where we are learning to leverage social media to build our business with modern online strategies. We don't want to chase anybody about our business. We don't want to convince anybody to buy anything off us. We want to truly attract people to us by using modern online strategies. So I go live 5 days a week at exactly the same time, which is this time at the beginning of every week. I do a topic on something to do with self-development, so a personal growth, something to help you be a better version of yourself. And I do that every week. And then we talk about business-related social media topics during the week, and then I finish off with the social media tip of the week. So today is that day where I talk about like a personal development, personal growth type of topic. And there are a lot of people that are stuck with certain things in their life or overwhelmed, and it actually holds you back to the extent where you're not building, your business forward, you're not moving forward. So I want to give you 3 simple steps to help you break through that. And although they're simple, what's easy to do is easy not to do. And that's where most people sit. Hello Joanne, how are you? Some lovely Easter messages coming up, so I hope you've enjoyed your extra long weekend. We certainly did. We went out to the farm. I put some photos up of that on my personal page last night. And it was my birthday on the weekend, so my husband organized everything. It was awesome and invited some people around. Hello Mel, how are you? And it was just lovely. We did have some just been busy with projects. Good to hear, Sean. Hi Dawn, how are you? We did have a loss in the family on the weekend as well, so that was, incredibly, sad, and we're still dealing with that now, but I guess just that's life, isn't it? You can't predict what's going to happen from one day to the next, so it's important to live our life, to the fullest and enjoy what we have. And if we are suffering with things like, anxiousness or overwhelm, or you're stuck in something, to really work through that, because it's not worth it being stuck there. It's really not worth it. We only live once, and we want to, lead a, thank you, Crystal, I did. Apart from obviously the loss in our family, it's just a sad time at the moment. But that's that it's just life. No one lives forever, right? Thank you for your lovely messages. So what's important is when we're feeling sort of stuck or anxious and those kind of things, and we can't move forward in our life, is to actually really do something about it, because there is a lot of people that will feel these things and they don't know where these things come from. They just think it's the way things are. They just think it's the way life is, and that's just me, or that's just the pattern in my life, or that's just what happens to me. And it's not. It's your thoughts, and thank you Shannon, it's your thoughts and the way that you think, the way that you speak, the actions that you take that control your life. So if you can could control those things, your thoughts, your actions, you know, you can really change the course of our life. And what are people, a lot of people, that is true, Sean. That is true. Sorry, guys. I shouldn't have mentioned that potentially, but hey, I'm human. I'm human. So, getting back on track, you know, it really comes down to our own thoughts, and, you know, take what's happened in, you know, my world, and somebody beautiful has passed away, and it's incredibly sad, and we're allowed to grieve, and that's okay. I'm sure you don't mind me being human right about now. Thank you, Shannon. It's, you know, and it's you know, it's just grief in, you know, recognizing and missing somebody that you love incredibly, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I guess, you know, like anything, it's turning those thoughts around to memories rather than, you know, deep sadness in the beautiful times we did have, and, you know, just beautiful, beautiful memories is what we need to hang on to. So the way that we, hey Olive, hey Sal, the way we, you know, think is so incredibly powerful. And, you know, in times like this that I'm sharing with you, real raw, and I didn't think I was going to do this, but hey, I'm human. It's okay. It's okay to get overwhelmed. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be stuck. It's part of life. You know, and it's okay to grieve and have tears and stuff like that. It's completely okay. It's whether we hang on to it and not move on from it is when it can start to hurt us. So if, you know, these tears continued for, you know, every day for 6 months or something, it would obviously be a problem. It's how we move on from things that is important. So those of you, thanks Mel, thank you Crystal. It's, you know, these kind of moments that, you know, we really need to think about the situation at hand and put that into perspective. Thank you, Barbara. And so in situations like, not mine that I'm feeling at the moment with grief and loss, but just, you know, being stuck and overwhelmed, a lot of those things come from our limiting beliefs, and they're buried deep from when we're a child. And a lot of people don't realize that a lot of these things are buried, and they actually rule our life unless we make a choice to overcome them. So I hope that makes sense to you, because a lot of things that you might see and it's like, oh, that's just what happens in my life. That's just the way, hey Barbara, that's just the way it is, or that's just the pattern in my life. But if you've got things that are happening, yes, Rob, we need to celebrate their life. So true. If you see a pattern happening over and over again, or you know that you continually get overwhelmed, or you know that you continually get stuck with certain things in your life, the reason behind that stems back from limiting beliefs that happened as a child. And those things will rule your life, and you'll continually get stuck and overwhelmed and anxious about things unless you consciously change the limiting beliefs. So what I'm trying to share with you here is how you can unravel limiting beliefs that have been set in stone from a child. Thank you, Jacinta. Because it's just the way it is, guys. There's things that happen when when we're all young that mold our beliefs, and some of those can be limiting. You know, just little simple things like we get told off with it, you know, all the time. You can't do that. You can't. You know, you just can't, or no. Like a lot of kids these days, they get taught, no, you can't do that. So we get brought up with these limiting beliefs of, I can't do that. Like I can't explore. I can't, you know, do what I want to do, because we've always been sort of taught no, you know, as a kid, like, you know, don't speak out, or shh, you know, be quiet, don't cause a scene, or don't climb up that tree because you might fall and break your bones, and you know, all those kind of things. We often get told not to do things as a child. What happens in life though when we grow up is we often divert to that I can't do that, or I shouldn't do that, or there's all these limiting beliefs that are buried there that unless we actively try, hey Claudia, unless we actively try and change them, they're going to rule your life you're going to see the same patterns forever. Does that make sense, guys? So it's really important that if you're stuck, you're overwhelmed, you see the same patterns in your life happening. You see the same relationships that you get into. Maybe they're unhealthy ones. If the same pattern shows up over and over again in the things that you try to do or try to achieve and it's not healthy, hey Suzanne, how are you? And it's not healthy, then it should be a real wake up call that you have limiting beliefs that you need to break through. And how we do that is through, I want to give you these 3 simple steps. And when I say simple steps, it's not simple by any means, because you actually have to make a conscious effort to create new habits to get rid of limiting beliefs. And it's not easy because you have to push through your normal defaults. I hope that makes sense, because there's things that you do that you don't even understand why you do them. You just do them. And that is buried from what happened to you as a child. And there's a lot of limiting beliefs that are stuck up here due to what happened to you as a kid. It's just the way it is. It's well documented. It's well written about. It's just, we have these limiting beliefs that we grow up with, and we just think that is the way that it is. If you're not happy with that though, if you're stuck with certain things, if you get overwhelmed with things, if you know that you're not achieving what you want to achieve and you're always holding yourself back, or you get some success and then you self-sabotage yourself, that's all tied back to your limiting beliefs and what's going on for you and default patterns that are buried deep. So we really need to take total awareness and control if we want to change, if we want to get unstuck, if we want to, break through the overwhelm and we want to break through limiting beliefs. Am I making sense so far, guys? Send me some likes and loves if I'm making sense so far. So there's 3 quick tips that I want to give you here. So one of them is, firstly, you cannot change anything unless you have an awareness around it. And this is why often, yes, Claudia, we don't even realize it. And this is why I raise things like this, is to raise your level of awareness, because there are things that you do that you don't even think about, you just do them. And they may not be healthy, or you may be stuck, or you may be overwhelmed, or you may always hold yourself back, but you don't really know why. So the first step, number 1, is really to have a great awareness of what's going on for you. Are you stuck with something? Are you overwhelmed with something? Do you know you hold yourself back? Do you know you're not achieving what you want to achieve because of your limiting beliefs about yourself? So step 1 is actually realizing that. Without the realization of where you're at, you can't change a damn thing. Does that make sense? So unless you sort of recognized, I actually think I'm stuck on something in my life. I actually know, hey Laura, I actually know I'm the type of person that often gets overwhelmed. Or I know that I self-sabotage my success. I know that when I get a little bit, then I always hold myself back, because these are the kind of things. That's awesome, Sean. So Sean's saying he has a great awareness of the things around him. That is the very first point. If you don't have an awareness around anything, so you complain, and this is what most people do, which is very unfortunate. They will complain about a lot of things in their life, or they'll blame other people. So it's just the way it is what a lot of people say. Oh, it's just my circumstances. I can't because of this, I can't because of that, or I can't because of something else. External circumstances don't control you, your thoughts do. It's all here. So if there are things that are happening in your life that you know you're holding yourself back, you know that you're overwhelmed, you know that you're stuck, step 1, realize it and write it down. I'm stuck. I'm overwhelmed. I know I hold myself back. Like, reality check number 1 is to actually, and that's not a bad thing, guys. It's actually a really good thing, because you can't change anything that you're not aware of. So we've got to realize where we're at to be able to change it. It makes sense? I hope that makes sense to you all. Claudia, but we have to start by taking responsibility. Absolutely, Claudia. And great point. And how we do that is to actually recognize where you're at. If you don't have step one and recognize where you're at, you can't take responsibility. So we have to recognize where we're at and take the responsibility to go with it. So excellent comment, Claudia. So step one, really take a mental check of where you're at and what's going on. And if you know that you're holding yourself back, then actually realize it for what it is. Because you can't go on to step 2 and step 3 unless you got step 1. So, and it's also, absolutely, I'm not sure who said that, it just went by, but you can't fix what you don't acknowledge. Who was that? Come back here. Crystal. Absolutely, Crystal. I do the elastic band now for negativity. Awesome, Barbara. If you don't know, hey Heather, how are you? If you don't know what Barbara's talking about, this time last week on my personal development topic, I spoke about the rubber band. It's still here. So this is a really good trigger for getting rid of negativity. So watch last week's Facebook Live on that if you don't know what Barbara's talking about. Sean, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Absolutely, Sean. So it all comes down to here. It's not the lack of funds. It's not the relationships that you're in. It's not all the external things that people blame for what's happening in their life. There is nothing you can't change when you're mentally sound. Nothing you can't change when your mindset is in, the right spot. So step 1, no worries, Crystal, is obviously the realization about it's a real reality check for yourself about where you're at. So number 2 is then working out, okay, so that's where I'm at, and I actually recognize that. Okay, it's not cool. It's okay if it's not cool, because you can't change what you don't realize is not cool. So like we were saying just before. So number 2 is, if you can't think about it any other way, think of it like this. And I've mentioned this over and over again for those of you that listen to me regularly. What's working? What's not working? And what can I do differently? So what's working in your life? Okay, I'll keep doing more of that. What's not working? Okay, I realize I'm stuck. I realize I'm overwhelmed. I realize I hold myself back. I realize I'm actually quite an anxious person. I realize that I have spouts of depression. I realize whatever. So you work out what's not working. So 1, we've got the awareness. Number 2 is, what are we going to do differently to get out of that? You really have to consciously think about those things and make a plan for yourself. Otherwise, you're always going to default to your limiting beliefs. Always, guys. And they're buried from when you're a kid, mainly. So your default habits are always going to be there unless you consciously take a mental check-in of what's going on for you. And then number 2, what are you going to do differently to get out of number 1? So, okay, I realize I'm overwhelmed. What am I going to do about that? So what I'm going to do differently is A, B, and C. What I'm going to do differently, say it's overwhelm. I'm going to chunk down what I need to do, because I'm just looking at this big picture, and even like learning online stuff. There's all this stuff out there and you don't know where to start and you're overwhelmed, and it's so overwhelming that you don't do anything. You don't put anything into action, and you're in learning, and you're not doing anything. So if that's the case for you with overwhelm, you have to go, okay, where am I going to start? Okay, I'm just going to start with this piece here, and I'm going to ignore everything else until I've taken the action there. Then I'm going to move on to step 2, and I'm going to you've got to chunk things down when you're overwhelmed and take action. Taking action is the only thing that gets you out of overwhelm. The only way you can do that is chunk things down into really small pieces. That's your goal. So you've got all this overwhelm here. You chunk things down in a logical order and say, right, I've just got to start that there and get that done. And then when you get that done, you move on to the next piece. And then you feel like you've accomplished something and you can move on. When you sit in this, oh, it's all too much and I don't know where to start, unless you actually think, okay, I need to do something differently here because I'm overwhelmed. Hey, Tina, how are you? Then I can't achieve anything. So you've got number 2 is working out what are you going to do differently to get out of number 1. Does that make sense? And you've got to break it down for you. The smaller it is, the better the guys. Better guys. Sean, I break my task down into bite-sized pieces and spread it over a number of days. Fabulous. And I bet when you do those things, Sean, you feel like you've achieved something. When you feel like you've achieved something and you're moving forward, then you get rid of the overwhelm because you're progressing and you can see the progression and you can create new habits. So instead of this limiting belief, I'm overwhelmed, I always get overwhelmed, all those kind of things, you just stay there. So then number 3, once we've worked out what we're going to do differently, and you chunk it down. Yes, Rob, when you start moving forward, you feel better. And when you feel better, you get more confidence. But the most important thing is you create new habits. When you create new habits, you change your limiting beliefs slowly and you create a new you. This is the only way to do it. These seem very simplistic on the surface of it. I know, guys. It's like, I can change all my problems by just realizing it, working out what I'm going to do differently and blah, blah, blah. Sounds simple. What's simple to do is simple not to do. I've already mentioned that a few times. So this takes great thought from your part about what's going up here. Honesty, absolute honesty with yourself and giving yourself the time and the space to work out what can I do differently. What can you do differently? Now, the reason for that is, Sean, I've achieved a lot over the weekend with this strategy. Awesome, Sean. The reason for that is why you want to work out what you're going to do differently, logically, with the right headspace and the right time to work out what that is because you get out of the emotion. Most people stay stuck in number 1. They go, yep, I'm stressed. I'm overwhelmed. I'm anxious. I don't know the answers. I don't know where this is going to lead me. I'm not sure if I can take the necessary action. I don't know if I can be successful at this. Like, you got all these questions in your mind and you stay stuck. You just stay there. So unless you deliberately move through an action like and it's 3 simple steps, unless you deliberately go through an exercise like this and create new thought patterns to create new actions, to create new, habits, your limiting beliefs will rule your life for the rest of your life. Now, I know that sounds dramatic, but there is things buried from what your parents said to you, what kids bullied you, whatever it was, whatever happened to you as a young child, that sets up your limiting beliefs. So unless you always work through, unless you sort of think through these kind of things logically, they are going to continue to rule your life for the rest of your life because they're buried so, so deep. So these are the things that we have to create new thought processes and do it constantly to create new habits to change your limiting beliefs. So it's possible. Anything is possible with the right mindset. So the number 2 is, what can I do differently? And you have to logically think through, and it might be things like, I actually need to ask for help. I'm struggling, and recognizing that you're struggling and you don't know where to start, and you need to send somebody a message going, I actually recognize that I'm really stuck or I'm really overwhelmed and I'm not sure which piece of information I should start with or what action I should take to start with. I'm just reaching out for some help here. What would you suggest? So reach out to somebody if you need to reach out to somebody. That's still an action. Somebody might give you a piece of information that you're not capable of coming up with yourself because you are stuck. Does that make sense? So sometimes you need to voice your concern or reach out for help or ask a question of somebody to give you a different piece of information than you're capable of thinking yourself because you are stuck. I hope that makes sense. I had issues with teachers at school. They should be educated on this. Teachers have actually got a lot to answer for in how they, and I'm not putting down teachers, please don't take that the wrong way, in how they execute their words to students, how they talk to students, because they mold those limiting beliefs in a big way. They're a huge part. Teachers are a huge part of kids' education, and people have fabulous role models and others don't. And that can have lasting thoughts and limiting beliefs on people. So yeah, it should be part of their training. You're right, Rob. So number two is we're actually logically thinking, what can I do differently? And we do that to get out of the emotion. You don't want to get stuck in the emotion. You have to get out of the emotion of stuck, depression, anxiety, overwhelmed, and logically think, okay, what is it that I can... Sorry guys, I just got a phone call there. Sorry about that. So we actually have to get out of your emotion. You have to stop feeling sorry for yourself. You have to stop feeling anxious. You have to stop feeling overwhelmed. You have to stop feeling stuck for a second to logically think, okay, what can I do differently to help me get out of that? So that's number two, getting out of the emotion and thinking logically about what you can do to get out of the emotion. And the number three is being very diligent and consistent, and basically 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do it anyway, even when you don't feel like it. Number three is your key to whether this all works or not, because your limiting beliefs is what you're always going to fall back on. You are naturally going to default to the way you've always thought, naturally. So unless you constantly train your brain to go, I know that's my pattern in the past, but this is what I'm going to do differently, and action it and do that over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's the only way you can create new habits. New habits rewire your limiting beliefs. But unless you do it over and over and over again consciously, like you actually talk yourself into doing things when you you're right, mate? Sorry, school holidays, child distraction. Unless you consciously think, I've got to do this, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I've got to do this, or take the action that I really don't feel like take. Unless you deliberately train yourself to do things that you don't want to do and push through fear and push through your limiting beliefs, you can't rewire them. So you end up doing things that you don't necessarily want to do, but you have to do that. Yeah, and you have to be aware that you have to do that to change your limiting beliefs, because that's always your default. Your limiting beliefs are always going to be there, and they're always going to be your default unless you make a conscious... Sorry, I think it's my dad. He's just called me 3 times in a row. It was my dad's sister that passed away, just to put that gap there. So, sorry for the distraction there, guys. Unless you consciously thinking about this, you're always going... It's important for you to know that your limiting beliefs actually rule your life unless you consciously actually think, I don't want that anymore. I want a new me. I want new habits. I recognize where I'm stuck. I recognize where I'm overwhelmed. I recognize the same pattern in the same relationships and whatever, and think about, why is that? What's the reason that keeps showing up in my life? It's because there's some kind of limiting belief buried deep in you from childhood. So you need to recognize that for one. Work out, okay, I don't want that anymore. I don't want that anymore. I want to have all these opportunities in my life. I want to be a better version of me. I want to grow. I want to build a successful business. I want to be a better version of me. Yeah, affirmations, Rob. You have to retrain your brain and use things like affirmations to retrain your limiting beliefs, because that's your default and it's always going to be there. Unless you do things like these 3 things that I'm going to tell you, that's slowly done over and over and over and over. It's like, think of it like building a muscle. So you might not have much muscle. So how do you build up muscle? You do something over and over and over. Like you pull up that weight and you do it over and over and over again. And what happens? You build up the muscle, and then you've got new muscle memory. It trains your muscle in a certain way, and it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. You've got to build the muscle in your life. Does that make sense? So you've got to do things over and over and over and over again in your, in your life, to build up the muscle for your life. I hope that's weird analogy in a way, but I hope that makes sense in relation to how you change things. So you've got to push through. You've just got to absolutely push through, even when you don't feel like it, if you want to change the things that you're stuck on. So I'm not saying this is easy. I'm referring to this as three simple steps, but it's not 3 simple steps, because it takes a lot of muscle memory and a lot of conscious thought to change your limiting beliefs. But I just want to leave you with the thought, unless you do this, those things that are stuck for you, your limiting beliefs about I'm not good enough, I've never been successful before, so why would I be now? No, nobody loves me enough, or I was never popular enough, or I'm not good looking enough, or whatever it is that you've got going on for you. Oh, thank you, Mel. Say hello to your husband. If those are the things that rule your life, please recognize them and work out, you know what, I don't want that anymore. I don't want to look at myself in the mirror anymore and think that I'm not good enough, because I am good enough. And I've got just as much opportunity to be successful as the next person. So I'm going to take control. I recognize this now. So, okay, I'm going to give myself half an hour as space to think, okay, what am I going to do differently? What am I going to start to do differently? Those things being differently might be just starting with affirmations. I am good enough. I am good enough. I can be whoever I want to be. I can be successful as the next person. Like, just positive affirmations might be started, but recognizing where you're struggling. And if you need to reach out for somebody and ask for some help, do it, guys, because most people struggle in their... Hang on, guys. Honey? Honey? Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you please ring Dad? Yeah. I think he's just tried to... I think it's him trying to ring me. He's just tried to ring me 4 times in a row, so something must be wrong. Yeah. Thank you. I'll be off in a second. Sorry. There's so much going on at the moment. And I need to make sure that my dad's okay, because as I said, it was my dad's sister that was lost. So anyway, I hope you got something from this message today. I need to go and check that my dad's okay. Sorry for the emotion. A lot has happened over Easter, and it's not a bad thing. It's just, I'm human when you lose somebody in your family. So yeah, sorry for the mixed messages and the interruptions. It is what is. So thank you for being here with me today. I hope that message resonated with some of you and gave you... Hey, Gabor, how are you? Thank you for your birthday messages. I just need to go for now. So I hope there was something in today's live that, resonated with some of you, that you can go and do those 3 action steps, and that it helps you in some way. So I will see you same bat time, same bat channel tomorrow, guys. Bye.